Okay, so I just did a reaction to ABBA's single, The Day Before You Came.
The day before you came.
Ooh, a lot of atmosphere. Which the B-side was Cassandra.
You know the future is cast in the shadow.
And I think it's absolutely fascinating that these songs ended up on a single together. Almost a little prophetic, especially considering the state of affairs within the band at the time. Musically, these songs couldn't be more different. Thematically though, well, we'll get into that. But did you come from my reaction video? Because in it, I thought that The Day Before You Came sounded like another song. At first, I wasn't sure what it was. But ABBA released The Day Before You Came within a week of the song that I've been thinking of. And it's not the vocal, but the backing track I think sounds kind of similar. Did you guess it? Well, the song that I'm thinking of is Dirty Laundry by Don Henley. Did you guess that? I'm guessing not, considering I googled it and literally no one else has thought this. I'm gonna live dangerously by playing you a few seconds of it, considering Don Henley is a notorious copyright blocker. If you notice, both have a cut-off synthesizer sound that sounds almost like a sequencer. But in fact, Benny played the synthesizer part and Michael Trito made it sound like a sequencer with an effect. However, Cassandra was written first. ABBA, who never played it live, recorded it first for Super Trooper. It once lived a life as a song called Pig Party in Mallorca. Sounds like a hit. Well, that song was eventually changed to Put On Your White Sombrero.
Put on your white sombrero. Saddle your horse.
My first impression was that Cassandra sounded German, but after listening to this version, I can definitely hear ranchero influences. But I believe the German influence is also appropriate, and that can be heard in quite a few of ABBA songs. According to ABBA expert Carl Magnus Palm, that's because of Benny and Björn's early exposure in Sweden to what's called Schlager.
Can you describe what Schlager is exactly?
Yeah, it's a German word. It means hit song, basically. That's what it means. But I would say in ABBA's lifetime and in the decades leading up to ABBA forming and in ABBA's lifetime, so we're talking from the early 50s and throughout the 70s, basically, it referred to anything that wasn't rooted in American rhythm and blues, wasn't blues based, didn't have like a rock feeling, that more harder edged thing. So it could be anything from your typical German Schlager, which is like, you know, Oompa Boompa things, or very saccharine.
Du kannst nicht immer 17 sein, Liebling, das kannst du nicht.
The dual Latin and German influence is similar to Chiquitita, another song that had many different lives.
Your best friend, I'm the one you must. How the heartaches come and they go and the stars they leave it.
White Sombrero never made it to Super Trooper, and it gets stashed away. Not until August 1982, when Benny and Björn took a break from working on the ill-fated follow-up to The Visitors. They reworked the song into Cassandra. Unlike Chiquitita, Cassandra is darker because it not only has tragedy, but also war. Cassandra refers to the tragic figure in Greek mythology who possessed the gift of prophecy, but was cursed not to be believed.
You will always know the future, he said, but you shall be doomed to despair. No matter that your predictions will always be true, no one will ever believe you.
It conveys a sense of frustration and powerlessness in the face of one's destiny, which is the theme of the song.
Pity Cassandra that no one believed you.
In the studio, they get it pretty much how they wanted, but they decide it's not going to be a great single. it's not quite hummable enough, but they have the studio booked for the rest of the day. Benny had been noodling around with a single melodic fragment.
And the most fascinating thing is that we're still alive out there.
So Benny and Björn work on it together, and within an hour, they have written the whole melody. When the time comes to record the vocal, he asks Agnetha to...
You know, this is an ordinary girl, living an ordinary life in an ordinary city somewhere. Maybe you should act that. Don't sing as good as you can.
And my first impression of Agnetha's vocal was how fragile she sounds. Cassandra and The Day Before You Came don't have much in common except for Frida and Agnetha's vocals. Both have sort of a pleading quality. Although Benny says this...
If you can ask Björn, he said they were divorced. But he's not writing about that, I think. It's fiction.
Maybe subconsciously they were casting their ex-wives as desperate women. After all, its original title was The Wounded Bird. I think it's pretty natural to want to think that your partner is not better off without you. I think that's why women want to look extra devastating if they're meeting with an ex, for instance. Of course, I'm just speculating, but I do find it interesting. I think Cassandra sort of is out of place on The Visitors, but A Day Before You Came fits perfectly. For one thing, the theme of A Visitor, as well as the sophistication of the songs on the rest of the album. And it has sort of a linear structure with no real chorus, similar to When All Is Said and Done. And it fits the somber mood of the album's cover, maybe even more so than the title track. I really think that it sounds like a song version of a French film, like maybe one that stars someone like Isabelle Hubert. And the video reflects that too. And like a French film, it doesn't give any easy ending, but an ending that leaves lots of interpretation. And you can see that in the casting of Agnetha in the music video, who's flirting with a man on a train. And there's a fabulous video by Bobby's brother. I'm going to have it linked down below in case you haven't seen it. He really goes more into the making of this song as well as a great lyrical interpretation. In that video, he sort of posits a similar theory that I did looking at these lyrics, that the protagonist of The Day Before You Came is listing these mundane things because that's what was happening the day before her lover came. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out between them. And now she's forced to return to a life that she can only probably remember because it was so mundane. Yeah, I just think it's just absolutely fascinating considering the media's narrative about Agnetha's being sort of a recluse. And even at the time, the narrative was that Agnetha thought that her family was more important. Taking care of her children was more important than maybe her career was. That these songs cast Agnetha as a woman who's doomed to a life of mundanity, and that Frida was cast as a woman doomed to a life of being misunderstood. That's really interesting. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm just so curious, as always, what your opinion is. If you'd like to check out my original reaction, it'll be right here. Or you can check out my Reacumentary playlist down here. Or you can subscribe to me right here if you feel so inclined. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope I get to see you next time. Popcorn Philosopher over and out.